this is Karen from the Huntley Library. Thanks for joining me for today's Teen Crafternoon. Today we're going to be making cellophane wings, and these are great for costumes of all kinds, from adults and children to your pets. You can also use them for making like small toys too. So we'll gather some supplies together and then we'll start making our wings.
Here are our supplies for making our cellophane wings. We have got a piece of paper so you can sketch out your wings, a marker or a pencil or both for drawing your wings, some wire to make the frame for your wings, some cellophane if you've got that, or I have contact paper too, so that's a possibility to make the sort of fabric of your wings, I guess. Scissors for either cutting your wire, depending on how bendy it is, how thick. You might need something a little stronger, so you could also have wire cutters. That's what I've got here. And possibly some pliers. If your wire is thicker, it might be harder to bend, and it will be difficult on your, it will be hard on your fingers. So if you have some pliers, that will help you bend it more easily and will save your skin. You could also have some spray adhesive to tack your cellophane together. When we lay it on top of the wire, we need two pieces, and to hold it around the wire and to keep it in place, some kind of spray adhesive, or I have double stick tape that I'm going to use in a few places to hold mine in place, so this will be good. And if you're using the cellophane and not contact paper, you're going to need some kind of heat in order to get the cellophane to stick. Here's a little example I did with a little circle of wire. So there's two pieces of cellophane, one's on this side and one's on that side, and I put this, you can see my little piece of tape there. I put this between two towels and ironed it. So you could use an iron to do this part. There's my iron. Just on a lower heat for a few seconds, or you could use a heat gun if you have one of those, but be careful with those. They can burn right through that really quick, or melt right through it. So those are some heating options. So gather your supplies up together and we will get started. So the first thing you're gonna want to do is to draw some wings for you to make your wire frame around. And if you don't have any idea what wings look like, or you're not sure how you want yours to look, you could look at images of insect wings or fairy wings or dragon wings just for some ideas. You can print something out and trace that, or design your own. And you probably only need to make one wing, and then you can form your wire form twice on that one wing and flip it over so that you have a mirror image of your wings. I'll just show you one that I drew earlier. So I had one wing on that side, and then I did a double tracing of it so that I'd have two wings. But yeah, like I said, you only really need to do the one wing, and then you can just form the wire twice on that one side and join them together. I'll show you how to join them together later. So design a wing, and if you want to make these bigger, I'm just using an 8.5 by 11 size paper to do this because it's smaller and you'll be able to see it better. It'll go faster for me too. If you're making larger wings, this is going to take longer, and you might need something like poster board or cardboard so that you have enough space for both of your wings, or for an entire wing if you're making really big ones. So these are going to be more like pet-sized wings, or small child-sized, or pixie wings, rabbit-sized for sure. So I recommend for your first set of wings making something not too intricate so that you don't get bogged down in the design here, or in the wire process, which could take a while. So I'm just going to sketch a basic wing here. And then all of these lines are going to be where I'm going to have to make the wire connections. And If you draw it in pencil and you don't like it, you can always change it and then go over it in marker if you want to change your design. I'll just do a couple of those. And you can add lines like so if you are so inclined. So that's pretty simple. If you want to make it a little darker, you can trace over it in a marker so you know exactly where you're going with things, especially if you make a bunch of different pencil lines and you want to remember which ones you want to follow. This is not strictly necessary. Oh, but look, I changed it already. Unintentionally. I think my pencil drawing was neater than my Sharpie drawing. That's okay. So just at the end, I'm going to have these little curly cues that will not be covered in cellophane. Do I want to connect this one up or just have it dangling? I think I'll connect this one up too. Okay, and in the center here, you don't have to draw this in, but this is where we're going to create a little like U clip, and then the other wing will go off to this side. It will match this one. They will be matchy-matchy. But we're going to make like a little U, and then this part is what you would tuck into the top of your shirt or whatever you're going to attach the wings to when they're being worn. So, all right. Next step, we're going to get going with the wire. So find the kind of longest piece that you're going to be using. This is my long piece here that goes over the top and kind of down here. And if you have any sharp bends, make a real exaggerated bend in your wire, and then you can unbend it slowly to match what you have on your drawing. So that's close-ish to what I have. I'm going to do this top, and I'm also going to keep the bottom one here too. So once I have that in place, that's pretty close, and I want to leave enough to make a little curly cue at the end. So I'm going to cut my wire about here. Grab my little wire cutters. There we go. Your wire can go spinning off into the atmosphere like mine did. Okay. I'm gonna exaggerate that bend too. And then if you have pliers, you can use those to make any little bends like this little spiral that I'm doing here. Your fingers will thank you. My wire isn't too hard to work with, but when I start connecting other pieces of wire and I have to wrap it more tightly, these are gonna come in handy. Okay, so that's lining up pretty well. This part is not quite following the bend, so I'm going to push it out a little bit more. And then bend this in. These tools that I have are for jewelry making. Since I'm making kind of a small set of wings, I decided to go with those. You can use bigger ones though too. Okay, pretty good. So now I'm going to get my next piece of wire, which is this one here. And measure that out. So I want it to go from there and then get kind of bent up over in here. And then I'll add this other little piece in a little bit. And I want to leave a little bit of extra wire at the ends so that I can wrap it around and secure it all together. So I'm going to cut it off probably around here so that I have that extra bit. Great. And things are going to move around on this paper quite a bit, so don't get too frustrated with that. Okay, so once you've got that kind of where you want it, you can wrap it around the other wire. So I'm starting this with my fingers, but like I said, it's a tight wrap, so it can get kind of hard to do with your fingers. So we'll see if we can help ourselves out with the pliers here. Bend, bend, bend. And then this just adds to the decoration of your wings. So make it as pretty as you want to. Since wings are sort of natural and organic, all these little twists, these little like viney twists are kind of nice. Come on, wrap, wrap, wrap. And the stiffness of your wire, it's going to depend on what you happen to have around, but also on how pliable you want your wings to be later on too. Like if you don't want them to flop around a whole lot, you might want to choose something that's a little bit thicker and stiffer to do this. My goal is to have it be super bendy so that I don't have to spend a lot of time with the tools and bending it to the shape that I want it to be. Although that means it's really easy to unbend it too and lose the shape and the definition that I wanted or that I have when I first bend it. And once you have all of these pieces together for your wing design, you can definitely bend them and tweak them too. It just gets more complicated once you add the cellophane part or the contact paper. Okay, and then I'm just going to attach that here to the other edge. If you find that you have a lot of wire left over and you don't want to wrap all of that, then you could just trim it once you've got it secured. And this is actually bending pretty well for me here with just my fingers, so I'm gonna keep bending it around until I get to the end here where it gets more difficult and oops, wrong tool, and then get my pliers to wrap that up nicely. It's the part that will hurt your fingers when the end kind of jams into them. Okay, so there we go. So you can start working on your wings too. I'm going to do the rest of this wing and then show you what it looks like at the end. Okay, I have accomplished one wing. Let's see if it will focus. There we go. So there's my one wing. And now I'm going to make a second wire wing, and hopefully it will look much like this one. It doesn't make a huge difference if your wings are slightly different. I'm sure nature makes wings that aren't completely symmetrical. So make your second wing now. Okay, you should have two wings that are more or less the same. Mine are slightly different. You can tell that they're in the same family though. Now we're going to make the U that goes in the middle to attach them to the back of your shirt or whatever else you're going to use as an attachment. So I'm just going to take a few inches of the wire, and this is the size of this is going to depend on what you're attaching them to. Like if this is for a small person, then you might not need a huge U. These are kind of small wings in general, but if I were going to wear them, I'd want a larger U so that they attach securely to the top of my shirt, like the neckline of my shirt, and catch that nicely. So I'm gonna make my U. This is maybe 3 or 4 inches of U right there, and then I need a little bit extra to attach that on the sides. So what ends up happening is that you're gonna have an M essentially when you have those side pieces. So there's my U, and then there's one part of the M and the other part of the M, and then these pieces on the side here are what we're gonna wrap around to hold the two pieces of wing together. So let me just trim this one away from my wire source. Oops, I had that. There we go. Now everything is stuck together. Ah! Okay. My U is still stuck, or my M. And if you find that this is like too flexible and you don't have a thicker wire, you can put a little piece across here, across the U, to sort of brace it from moving around too much. So try your wings out first, and then you can add that later on if it seems like it's going to be necessary. And then I'm just going to start attaching that to my wings. And we're kind of wrapping it around the same way we did to attach the wings, all the different pieces together. I found that when you have a longer end here, it's a lot easier to twist it. When you have shorter one, you're always poking yourself in the finger with the sharp end, which is no fun. Maybe if I wore a thimble or something on my thumb, that would help. Okay, so I've got one half of my U attached to that wing, and we're going to do the same thing on this other side. And I left a little bit up at the top here open, so I'm going to make sure that whatever I do on one side, I want to do on the other side so that it's even. So I'll start wrapping in the second section here. Now that it's attached to something, it's a little bit harder to work with. So I'm going to bend my U away from me for a little bit. We can bend it back later on while I attach this here. And you can see that my wire is pretty flexible, so I am probably going to want to reinforce my U in the middle like I was recommending. So that my wings stay more together. Okay, but now they're joined and pretty much ready to go, except for the cellophane part. So we'll do that next. So for this part, you're going to want a couple of pieces of cellophane for each wing. So I'm going to have one on the back and then one in the front. Let's see, will the whole wing fit on there? It looks like both wings will fit on there. And I'm not going to have the cellophane really stick to these long parts. I'm going to cut those out later on. We'll cut around the cellophane later on once we've adhered everything. If you're using contact paper sticks to itself. So you can just do one sheet behind and one sheet on top and then make sure you press together really well. I might just do one wing in the cellophane to show you, and I'll do one wing in the contact paper to show you what the difference looks like. So, change of plans here. I need my scissors. I'm going to cut this in half so that I can just do the one wing. It's kind of ripping. Okay. So we'll do this wing on this side. And this will go on top of it, like so. My paper's a little staticky already, so that's kind of helping me out and getting it to stick to itself. So while I have it down like this, I'm just going to add a few pieces of my double stick tape to get it to adhere to itself. And I can put that over the wire as well, maybe to hold that down. And you don't need a ton of it, you just want it to stay enough in place so that when you're ironing it or using your heat gun, it's not moving all over the place. And you could use the spray adhesive, like I said before, to do the same thing. So because I have these kind of bigger lumps where the wire is, that might take a little bit longer to iron and really get it to adhere. Hopefully not too long. You might want to experiment with your iron heat. Start off with a low heat and see where that gets you. And then if you need to increase the heat to get it to really meld together, you can do that gradually. So we're going to move this over to my iron, which is set up on the counter. You want to make sure to protect the surface that you're working on because you don't want to melt it. So if you're using an iron at a higher heat, make sure you have some kind of padding underneath it so that you don't melt the surface that you're ironing on. You can use an ironing board if you happen to have one of those. And the same thing with your heat gun. If you're using a heat gun, you want to move it around a lot so that you cover things evenly and don't hold it in any one place for too long, or you might melt a hole in your wing, which might be, decorative, but you probably don't want to do too much of that. So be careful with that, and be careful where you're focusing the heat gun so you don't melt anything in the background. Might be an outdoor project if you're using one of those. All right, so let's move over to the iron. Okay, so we're ready to iron. I have a nice big thick piece of cardboard under here and then a towel. And then I've got my wing that's taped together, and also this other part of the towel. We're gonna just fold that in half over the wing so that none of that cellophane comes into contact with the iron here. And then this is probably on medium heat right now. I'm just gonna iron this all over and try and get that cellophane to start adhering to itself and melting a little bit. I think the only thing I use my iron for these days is for craft projects, mostly perler beads. It's a crafting iron. And if you're finding that the heat that you have your iron set at is too low, you can start increasing that after you've spent a few minutes ironing it at a lower heat. I'm going to up mine a little bit because I've been doing it for a while. Okay. Melt. Maybe my towel is insulating it really well. Be careful when you're holding the towel down, not to get your fingers like right where you just iron, because that heat can travel right up your skin, and if you have a hotter iron, then it's not going to feel so good. Don't burn yourself. It's kind of crackly, I think, where it has not stuck to itself yet, so try and listen for where it's crackling a lot and hit those spots like there. I think there's a double thickness of the cellophane there because it folded over, so we'll see. And you can check and see how your wings are turning out. Again, be careful when you're touching them because it's going to be hot. If the cellophane's not hot, then the wire will probably be hot. So you can see that it's starting to stick together here. The cellophane is pulling together. So I still need to do a little bit more ironing to really get that stuck. Make sure my surface is okay. So just keep doing that, and I will show you what it looks like when it's completely done so that you have an idea. Okay, here's what our ironed wing looks like. You can see how it's pulled away or pulled together wherever the heat hit it, and it's sticking to itself and to the wing. So now we just have to trim around the edge of the wing here to follow its shape. Get rid of that excess cellophane. If you find that there are some spots that have not adhered, go back and heat them up again with the iron or whatever you're using. That's my end, so that can actually be free. I don't want that covered with cellophane. This is sort of like laminating the entire thing, if you've laminated anything before. And you can use different colors of cellophane on your wing. We happen to have this sort of purple lavendery one, so that's what I went with. We can go clear. Clear is fine. And this whole area does not need to be enmeshed. that out. Okay, and I just have a little bit up this area. So close to being finished with this wing. A little bit down here to trim off. A little bit on the other side. Try and get as much trimmed as you can. Okay, and then there's that wing. Okay, so we're going to do the other side with contact paper and see how that turns out. So let me clean this up and we will do that in just a second. I have a roll of contact paper. I think you can also buy this in sheets. So a sheet might be easier to work with if you have that option. And it looks like I can maybe just cut one section here and I have enough to do both sides. Cut. So this might be the route you want to go if you don't want to use heat on your project. And then I'm just going to fold this in half and cut it like that. Be careful with the contact paper because it will stick to everything because it's like a big sticker. So that's what it does. And if it gets stuck to something you don't want it stuck to, you might have a hard time convincing it to let go. So something I'm going to try with this once I get it out of here is sticking things to the contact paper aside from the wing. So I've got my wing right there. I'm sticking that. That's not going to stick super well yet because it's not sticking to the metal part real well. But it is going to stick to the other piece of contact paper once I add that. I also have a little container of glitter here, and if you're going to try this at home, be careful and don't get glitter everywhere. I mean, you're going to get glitter everywhere. I wanted to see if I can add a little bit of sparkle to these wings with the glitter, and I don't want to put too much on because I still want it to be able to stick to the other piece of paper. So I'm just going to put a little bit in here and then close this up very quickly so that I don't knock it over somehow and get glitter all over everything. It's always the problem, right, with glitter? It gets over everything no matter how careful you are. Okay, so time to get my other piece of paper ready. If you have glitter stuck to your fingers after you do that, if you decide to add glitter to your wings too, you might want to wash your hands or clean them off before you attack this other piece of contact paper. And then they don't have to be lined up perfectly, but you do want them to overlap where your wing is. And then stick. And the places you want it to stick are in these center spots that are going to make up the fabric of your wing, and also around the edges too, so that when you trim the contact paper, you will get a nice edge. So keep pressing and make it stick to itself. Mine is not sure that it wants to stick to itself. And it looks like the reason for that is because I have purchased the kind that will, it can be lifted and repositioned during the application. So it would like to be lifted and repositioned, it seems like. I do not want to lift or reposition it, so. Stick, stick, stick. All right, once you've got your contact paper pretty much adhered to itself, then you can do the same thing that we did before and trim the excess paper away. So for me, that's going to be around here. I don't want it covering those end pieces at all, so I'll just remove it completely from that area. Kind of tricky to get around there with the scissors, so I want to trim from both sides, but there's that piece of metal in the middle which I don't want to cut off. Some of this might work better with bigger wings because you'll have more surface area for any contact paper or cellophane to stick to. And this, make sure you get the kind of contact paper that does not like to be repositioned, or you may end up just repositioning it over and over again while it refuses to adhere to itself, like I'm doing. Okay, let's charge into that space and remove, remove. Whoa, I almost lost the whole wing there. It's unadhering. Help. Help. Okay. So I don't know if this will ever adhere to itself. It looks like maybe not. But this is an idea of, if you could get some that did adhere, unlike mine, what it would look like. If you put a little bit of glitter in there. And then there's our other wing. And we are basically done. Woo! Time-wise, it took me a little over an hour to do all of the wire work, and then maybe another 25 minutes of ironing to get this to adhere to itself. If your iron's at the right temperature and all goes well, this probably won't take that long, but I was being cautious. This part would take, you just saw it, it didn't take very long at all. So assuming that this contact paper sticks to itself, if you do that method, you might be done very quickly. So the wire work is gonna be the part that takes the longest probably, depending on how big and complicated your wings are. Okay, I did add the bracing to the little U in the middle here, and it's a lot sturdier, and this is not going to go anywhere, so that's good. And I did a little cheat with my contact paper since it wasn't sticking to itself, and I used the double stick tape in between the two pieces, and it does stick to that, so there's a quick fix if you're using the same kind of contact paper I was. And now this can just get put in the back of your shirt to hold on to, or if you have ties, you can use those to attach them to your back and make like a little backpack out of them. But our wings are done. Hope you had fun.
I hope you had fun making wings with me today on Teen Crafternoon. Mine turned out interesting. Since I did an example of two different methods on both sides, they're a little bit weird, but I think they're kind of cool too. So I will be making wings in the future. Hope you will be also. For more ideas and things that you can try out at home, you can check out our website, www.huntleylibrary.org. We have lots of fun craft videos there. And you can subscribe to our YouTube channel too to get all of the latest uploads. Happy crafting! See you next time.